Welcome to another episode of the In All Honesty podcast. My fabulous name is Olive Orao. And let's get right into it. So today I asked, what is your situationship with God or faith, and how did you get there? And before we get to that, I want to shout out some of the people that just came to YouTube from our last episode and they were just like, hey guys, I understand. So I'll not go through all of it, but I'll just shout you out. Purity Sowai, who brought up a very interesting point. She said she doesn't feel pressure, but something at the back of her head keeps telling her, what if you regret this decision that you are currently making? And my answer was simple. We can't always prepare for all the possibilities that we have in the future. If I change my mind, I will gladly and loudly say that I have changed my mind. I have categorically stated in this podcast that if my mind changes on anything, I'll come back here. I'll explain the new information that I have that has informed the new decision. Let us not be so scared of regret. It happens, you move on. What's the solution? If you need to cry, if you need to scream, do it. And then we move. I also want to shout out Charity Nyakangi, Maggie Mwangi, Caroline Canorio, Hibiscus Rose, Branis Nafula, Rael Achieng, and Roy Douglas K.E. Thank you so much, guys, for participating. It was a beautiful episode. I really, really loved it. Now let's get to our situationships with God. And I'm going to start with the comments that I got on all my socials because that I just felt like that's a good place to start from. So _Orawo, this is actually my baby sis, so we grew up in the same house. _Orawo says, hold both my beers. Both our beers. Grew up in the same house. We know the drill. Irene Soti says, hey, watcha two, hands over head. This is also a very close friend of mine, and I know her exact experience with church. So, Bible _uncut says, church and God and all that. I said, nah, not my jam. The whole concept of belief is such a non-consensual exploitation for me. Now, I have thought of religion in very many ways, but I have never thought of it as non-consensual. And this got me thinking, by the way, who asked me if I wanted to subscribe? Miss _Mwatu official says, I have experienced Yahweh. Is that ye almighty Hova? I don't know. I have experienced Yah in every aspect of my life. However, the church and traditional Christianity is something I had to leave because that is not who he is to me. So I've also seen a lot of people redefining who God is, and that makes it easier for them to relate to the God that they now have. And that is so beautiful for me. Climax with Shiro says, my faith is strong, lakini the church is a no. My relationship with God is more spiritual. I do not conform to any religion. Religion is a scam. Faith ni kila mtu na Mungu wake. It's personal. We keep telling people this. We keep telling people that faith is very personal, but it seems like it just doesn't get into people's heads, right? Kowinixi says, I have never believed in any gods. I was raised as a Nichiren Buddhist, but I do not practice that religion. I am now a nihilist and have complete faith in my understanding of life and the universe. Surprisingly, I came to this faith structure in AA. Is that Alcoholics Anonymous? I don't know. Praise be to the meaninglessness of all existence. Lols. You're a nihilist. I mentioned last episode that I was actually a nihilist for a bit, but that's story for another day. Crochet Kenya says, I do believe in the power of salvation in Jesus Christ. I have had my doubts over the years, but I have always given God the fleece test to show me he is holding my hand in this walk of spirituality. I take 2 to 3 days monthly to recalibrate and remind myself that in order to grow in Christ, I need to humble myself. I seek truth by reading books, learning how to pray, when to pray, and always read the Bible. Yes, life has hit me hard in so many things, including an almost near-death experience while in a coma for 4 days, but God pulled me through. I am forever indebted to him, and even though I falter, I rest in the knowledge that I have a Father in God, a friend in Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, the Blessed Trinity. So how have I come to this point? I made a deliberate choice to seek God no matter what and confirm everything with God's word. So this is very beautiful. I think what caught my eye here was that you actually take a few days every single month to recalibrate where you're at with God and where you should be going. It feels like a SWOT analysis for your faith. This is really, really beautiful. I loved this topic. I learned so much. Branis Nafula says, endeni kanisa. Go to church. Sherry_the_lady says, I am working on my journey daily and I feel good. I pray God to give me insight about him daily. That is beautiful. Okay, Georgina says, I left church, not God. This, I have come to realize, is a very common phrase amongst a lot of people. A lot of people just left the church. They did not leave God. Mesh Maina 5, tulisema ni pastors wabaya, kumbe ni hangover kila Sunday aki. So if you think church is boring, you might just be hungover. Stop partying on Saturday. Mungai Shiko says, the hair, try braiding now. Thank you, Mungai. I'll see what to do with my hair, but I do not like people pulling on my hair. Sha.k_ says, wear tissues, wine, and hugs. I am sending all of them to you, twice fold. I mean, you need it. Kesewa says, the thing that bothered me the most about doctrine religions had to be the insistence that God is male. After studying religions for my undergraduate degree, it could not be clearer how religion is being used as a tool to control the masses, how it praises the patriarchy and capitalism. It felt too systematic for me. Once I removed the idea of God outside of myself, God became my home girl. It's easier to surrender to something that's part of me than trying to please some miserable digger watching and waiting to see me sleep so he could punish me and then call it love, which, by the way, is the basis for most doctrine religions. Guys, it's a lot. It's a lot. But then again, I don't think I've also thought of religion as that, but we know it's very systematic. After I started looking at the church from outside, especially the church that I go through, I went to, which is a very old church, you start to realize it's literally run like a bank or a school. The church is very systematic in the way it runs. On Facebook, I had just one relevant comment that said, let me see, hacky COVID happened and I just never went back. Also hanging out with atheists. Well. And the other comments I got on Facebook were people just really obsessed with my hair. Thank you. And on TikTok, TikTok was very, very interesting. So let me just go through it. Mugashiko Wambari Yashiri says, I left church, not God. Again, that quote comes up. And learnt a lot and decided Mwenenyaga is within me, spiritual and not religious. That's all I can say. So I don't qualify to send an email. It's really okay. Not everyone has this life-changing story about how they got to where they are. So I really do understand. And thank you for sending in your experience. Kairetu Karathime says, we left church, not God. That quote comes up again. Where mine needs a pseudo. Okay. Create a pseudo and send it in. I don't know if, I don't think I've gotten your email though. User 233267 says, well, I was once a Sunday school teacher. Our church had a clique of men who accused some women of mistreating their men. My good friend was accused of mistreating her man. I told her, and that story blew up. I stopped going to church. Yeah, so a lot of people have that one-time experience where something happened and they were just like, by the way, see ya. Josephine says, I am spiritual and not religious. That quote comes up, but I guess I get to understand it. As most of you are sending in your responses, I've gotten to understand more and more what spiritual means and what religious means. Vanis Olal says, the conversation that we need to talk about. Let me send my story. I do not think I saw your story, Vanis. When are you getting to it? And then where Roy Douglas says, where have I been? Let me subscribe right now. Subscribe. Season 3 is a lot of fun, by the way. Pedrito Castes says, we are not ready for this conversation. Pedrito, we are. That's why we are having it here on the In All Honesty podcast. We really want to lay it bare. Junior says, I do not come in peace. Oh, I guess they're quoting me. Yes, I did not come in peace because this topic cannot be peaceful. It has caused world war. It has caused massacres. I mean, the topic of religion cannot be peaceful. Puri Nanyuki says, see you, chair lady stroke worship leader. I didn't see that one coming. A lot of people are even surprised when I sing along to gospel music. I don't know what you view me as, but I am not the devil's incarnate, please. Njoki.Masharia says, COVID happened and I couldn't go back. This is also something very common I've seen with a lot of responses. COVID just happened and people realized I can actually live outside this world. And you see the church fought a lot for, we don't want the churches to close down. There is something they were not telling us. You realize you can pray to God directly back at home, right? But with that said, the church creates a community. Just like there's people who have travel buddies, you have your girlfriends, you have your drinking buddies. The church also it creates a safe community for some people. So we can't always just tear it down. Bible Shut and Clean says, still strong in the Lord, but sometimes church people, I also wonder what's going on, but I love Jesus all the way. Again, church people, most of the time, it's never God or Jesus himself. It's most of the time the people who represent that community. Flowers by Marianne says, I don't know what happened, but I am not innocent. Baby girl, you and me, please. Is T for tough? T for tough. And then let me just check one thing. Sorry. I don't know what happened, but I am not innocent. Says that's Flowers by Marianne. Quinn says, cognitive dissonance is getting the better part of me. Spirituality makes so much sense, but the guilt I feel when I live against Christianity. So something you will notice across all these responses that have been sent in is that there's a lot of guilt in religion, in faith, in God. There's usually so much guilt surrounding everything you're doing. And I just want to tell you that it's normal. A lot of people have guilt, but you'll have to eliminate guilt in some way. Find a way in which God or your faith works for you so that you don't feel like you're in a toxic relationship with someone who's supposed to make you feel at home. Dekwa says, I hardly recognized you. You have really changed, but your laughter made me know you. Oh, sorry. Well, I guess I should patent it. It's signature now. User 509-184 says, looking forward to this amazing content. Olive sijamaliza church bado. Syllabus haijaisha? Okay. I guess you're still going to church. Murejena says, your afro is amazing. And what in all honesty is this episode? This is probably going to go down as one of the most honest episodes ever because this topic is sensitive. Malo Marion says, I will definitely watch. I am not a dropout yet. Yet is very loud. I'm not a dropout yet, but I have had moments that I definitely was skeptical. I love you, Olive, and your content is awesome. Thank you so much. And let us know how your journey is going. I hope you find peace and clarity in whatever path you choose. Pauline Quach says, we left the church, not God. There it comes again. People who represent the church are not the easiest to deal with. Rika Richard says, I left church, not God. Again, it comes up again. I realized that most SDA are holy on Saturday, but the devil incarnation on the other days, especially elders. Guys, are we ready? We set aside a whole episode. In fact, let's put aside a season and we can pick a church per episode to just discuss church elders because Anywho's, it's the glowing skin for me. We don't want peace. That's Rosemary Waridi. Thank you so much. C says, Olive, next time I request for an episode on kids bred out of polygamy. I said I'll shop around for people who've also come from polygamous families and have someone moderate that episode. I am not a child of polygamy, so I will feel a bit ingenuine moderating that conversation, but I have it at the back of my mind and I will plan for it. Thank you so much for suggesting that. User 668549 says, I believe in God. I don't believe in the concept of religion. I think I got that from my dad. I really envy those people who got like a wider perspective of the world through their parents, because most of us were just trailed into the route of where is God, is heaven or hell. At this _ Lolo says, we unatuchokoza wewe. I touched a sore wound, right? M1 says, tupatane pale nyuma ya tent, aka inbox. M1, I never even saw your inbox. I'm still waiting. Princess, I asked too many questions and all I'd be told is stop questioning the Almighty. Side note, I believe in a supreme being, just not the Abrahamic one. So again, spirituality comes into play. Dewey says, everyone that has a problem with the church or God, that they have selfish desire, that they feel God did not come through for them. I'd like to categorically tell Dewey that selfishness is not a bad thing, because whatever they're feeling, who else are they supposed to feel for? If I feel sad, who am I feeling sad on behalf of? It's me feeling it. So yes. And if at any point I ever feel like God let me down, like God did not come through for me, that feeling is very valid. If you're a friend, if you're someone I entrust and I trust you to come through for me in a certain way and you do not, the relationship ends, or then I lose trust in you. It's very human. If he took the human form, he should know that. So I do not appreciate you calling people selfish. It's very condescending and it really just does not make sense. I mean, whose feelings are you supposed to have? Yes, if I'm feeling some type of way about God, it's my personal feeling. And if that is selfish, I am sorry. Blessed KE says, I was a CU official. Last I went to church in high school. Otherwise, your evil laugh is making me feel guilty. I'm sorry. I will go to laugh training so that I sound a bit more supportive with my laughter. But CU officials, where should we set aside an episode for that as well? Hey, the next one I'm going to is some of the things that, not some of the things, I'm sorry. Some of the letters that I got through, I won't say letters, basically responses that I got through my inboxes. So they were not letters per se, and they were not short responses. But I'm happy to go through what I got here. So I'll start with one that I got. Woo, this is a lot, but let's get through it. So my friend here says, where do I start? I'm a Seventh-day Adventist from birth. I've always loved church. I still do. I still won't change my church, but ile lesson walinipea, my friend, I don't think I'll ever forget. In 2019, my dad was critically ill, so he was taken back home, Kisii, to await his death since nothing could be done to make him better. You know how relatives can be. They started saying, oh, koso, it's the wife. He knew Chawi. So mom or us wasn't, I guess she meant to say, wasn't allowed to see dad almost half of it. Dad alikuwa Ocha, sisi tukiwa LD. Makiu, my dad alikuwa, Makiu, my dad was the breadwinner. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my big bro was doing akibarua. He was hardly providing for his own needs, let alone provide us with the basic needs. Things were so tough, Olive. Imagine coming from school, jobless, coming home to a very sad home. My mom is a staunch Christian. That woman was even the women's leader. Amefunza watoto Sabbath school, ako kwaya, hakuna mshiriki hajawai mtembelea in the least when they were in shit. At least when they were in shit, I guess. My dad always complained of her going to everything that concerned church and church members. Sisi tulisimamia maharusi, tukaenda camps. I was forced to join the choir because I could sing. Okay, so I guess that's her joining a lot of things. Back to the story. Mom decided to go see dad, whatever the case, because she couldn't take it anymore. Jumwaka inaisha hajaona dad. I remember her leaving a note saying she didn't have fare. She borrowed the shopkeeper outside of our rental house, and that I should find a way to take care of my little brother because she had no money to give us. We survived for some few days without food, but it became unbearable. All this time she's gone, church members come in to ask for her or pray for us. No one asked if we've eaten, how are we surviving, but we didn't blame them at the time because we also didn't say anything. Ikafika point hapana, kijana mdogo analia juu, now school were opening 2020 Jan, hakuna hata fare ya kufika shule, usiongele hata fee sasa. He wanted to go to school. I'm sure he thought at least there he'd have food, it's guaranteed. I was just 19. I tried to hustle, kufulia watu kidogo, hadi I decided to tell the church watusaidie. Sasa we? Our church has more than 400 members. They all forgot. Nakumbuka the sato tulioga tukavaa fiti tukijua mchango leo ni yetu. Sema disappointment. I crowed. That day katikati ya someone mbaya. I crowed that day katikati ya someone mbaya sana, as in no one said anything. After like 3 Saturdays, there was an event ya church too, so other churches were coming too. That day, I remember a friend of mine forced me to go to church. Nikaamua niende too. So nikiingia, the elders were having a meeting. As soon as I passed, one of them saw me, and I think he remembered. Ati, oh, this is the daughter. We forgot the small mchango for them. Long story short, the whole church contributed 600 shillings. Siati, it was a new case. My dad had been sick since 2016. Everyone knew. Iyo 600 ningelipa nyumba, stima, fee, food au shopping ya mtoi, which is which. Nilikosa nguvu ya kukaa kuitana brethren in the midst of pretenders. Hey guys, it's tough. It's tough, I tell you. I think this is the most common experience I have heard about people who left the church. They were going through the deepest shit they could ever think of. And the people who they thought they had established a really strong community with did not even come through for them in any single way. And it is so sad because, yo guys, I'm just like, I don't know guys. I am hoping you find peace. I'm guessing your dad did pass away, or he's still there. Your mom, I hope the family has found stability. And as much as it's such a harsh way to learn a lesson, at the end of the day, you did learn something. It did open your eyes to what the church is really about. And it was a lot for me. That one it was so much. It was so much for me. I'll just head over to the next message. You can process that. I'm sorry I had to read it. I guess most of the people are writing to me when they're really anxious and they're typing fast, and probably all those emotions are running through. So sometimes the typos and the connections of the sentences, but I guess you get the whole story. This one says, I used to think prayers and believing is the key that would open many doors in my life, until when I realized that anytime I'd be committed to religion, my life would go crashing terribly. And I noticed when I don't want to involve myself with religion, my life goes smooth. Few bumps on the way, but I always overcome. And if I don't have a solution to the problem, it will just pass. I don't know how, but it passes. I realized this when I was 18. Now I'm 25. Me na religion ni kama maji na mafuta. My close friends and family have tried to make me create that relationship with religion, but all in vain. Hadi wamenizoea. By now, I'm not going back to religion anytime soon, but I acknowledge that there's a supreme being somewhere. Let me tell you, Maina, I have never related so hard to something that has been sent to me. So for me, what used to happen is, of course, prayer. A lot of African families just insisted on prayer. Everything will be solved through prayer. But what happened, my mom had a tradition that she established in the house where you're supposed to pray before you go to bed. We had a family devotion, but sometimes she was not there, and then we'd just go and we'll be like, okay, I'll pray in my bed. But what happened was, whenever I would pray, I would have such horrible nightmares. Horrible. Like, I'd wake up in a pool of sweat. And generally, I'm not even the kind of person who sweats visibly. So for me to sweat that I have water, it's really weird. So those days I would pray and I'd dream of things that just didn't even make sense. It was crazy. And then I remember this time I used to ask people, on the days you pray, do you have bad dreams? And then someone tried and explained to me, on the days you pray, the devil is aware that your foundation is strong. So they're sending you more demons to deal with. And after much thought, I just sat down and I said, let the demons possess me. I do not have this strength to fight every single day. Where am I getting it? I need to wake up tomorrow and go to school. Where am I getting strength to fight demons at night? So for me, it was like that. And on the days when I forgot to pray, I would sleep soundly until morning. I would just like, ah! So this is a very, very common thing. And that's when I started thinking about energies. And for energies, something also happened. There's this time I dated this person. And the minute this person came into my life today, the next day, it was just madness. Sijui, I've fallen sick. Or Sijui, someone has died. Or Sijui, random shit. But at the time, I didn't think about it. But anyway, something happened and I fell out with this person. And let me tell you, I fell out with this person today and just stopped all communication. The next day, it's like I woke up in a new world. It's like everything just went back to life. Like everything came back to normal. I haven't fallen sick for months over after that. I haven't, nothing crazy has happened since. And I was just like, I need to know what coincidence this is. I just need to understand it. But yes, this is the very same thing that happens. So for this particular person, whenever they were holding on to religion, whenever you went back, because there's always the aspect of guilt, whenever you went back and held on to your religion, hey, that is the point, guys. Things just start doing things the way they want. So for her, she also chose peace, I guess, because, what to do? We can't be fighting every day. Another person sent me a DM and they said, last year, there was a point I was putting in the work. I was happy. Then I got into a car accident, should have made me more into faith because it's by his grace. But I don't know why it pulled me away. Now I'm feeling like a sinner, not worthy of God's grace because I keep sinning and repenting. Does this make sense? Naona nachosha God. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. When I was growing up in the church, there was a lot of God isn't your friend. God is like the president. You shouldn't be. Come to God with things that are worth his time, And that was so problematic for me. And as I have mentioned before, even in the responses we've gotten, a lot of people felt guilt when it comes to God. A lot of people just felt thoroughly guilt-tripped throughout. And the idea of sinning and repenting, oh girl, I relate so hard. I don't even know how else to start relating again. I relate so hard because I was those people who, whenever there was a call to come and receive Jesus into your heart, it was me. Guys, I was saved over 700 times. It is actually very weird that I did not ever get baptized because that's so, and my mom didn't even know. Again, we go back to Black Sheep episode. It was very recently that I was telling my mom, I'm not even baptized. And she was like, what? In whose house? And I'm like, but you're the one who organized and attended all your children's baptisms. Didn't you think you missed one? But anyway, yeah, it's very weird that I was in that whole loop of I want to get saved every other time, but I just never went to catechism classes and never got baptized. It's so weird. But anyway, I do understand the guilt, the pulling away and coming back, But what I would say to this is you need to reevaluate what God is like for you. God should take a persona that you can be able to relate with and talk to very easily. If not so, find what works for you, what gives you peace, what gives you clarity. It might be changing faith. It might be changing religions. It might be not believing at all. It might be redefining who God is for you. Like we've had someone in the responses say, God is now their bestie. So it's been easier for them to relate with God like that. So just think of who you think God is. And in that sense, it will be easier for you to relate to the person who you call God than thinking of him as this ultimate person who is just watching you and is judging you because that then just makes you feel really, really weird. And the fact that you are going through a healing process, you've had an accident, at this point, I think you should feel very comforted in God and feeling like he's the one who's judging you the most harsh. It just doesn't feel right by me. I mean, in your most vulnerable point is when the people you call friends or the person who you feel should be there for you. So yeah, it's a very familiar feeling. I hope you don't feel alone. I hope you realize that this is very normal. Find ways of redefining God or faith for yourself so that it's friendlier to you. Okay. Another DM I got. Hey girl, really love your content because I relate a lot. Bless you. Let me tell you mine. We get into it. I have a story here. I have grown from a church-going and strongly believing in God family. My mom, to be specific, in quotes. Mimi nakumbuka hadi nikilazimishwa kubatizwa. Story ya kubatizwa imetokea hapa. Kuenda church kuomba to the point when I became an adult, I used to feel guilty for not praying even when I'm drunk. Because I was made to believe as a child that my way to heaven, that's my way to heaven. Sorry, prayer is my way to heaven. But now I got to reinvent my faith in God, and it's not necessarily how everyone views it. Some see it as rebellion, my mom to be specific, but I have learned how to connect with God without so many rules and restrictions. As I have mentioned before for the previous DM, find ways of redefining your God. It makes it very, very easy. Because some of the things that we were taught, if you look at it, it was some cultic doctrines. Because why are you supposed to pray? Pray at all times. Pray at all times. So can you imagine you're drunk, you're coming back home, you're staggering at 3 a.m. You're supposed to kneel by your bed and tell God what? And I so relate to this because a lot of times, a lot of emphasis was put on prayer. And I remember I used to have a problem with consoling people who've lost their loved ones, because a lot of times the church would say, just pray, God will give you strength. Just pray, God will give you strength. But in real sense, let me tell you, when shit has been shitting shit, you don't even know, like you just sit there and you don't know what to tell this God. Like, what am I? I'm feeling angry, frustrated. I'm mad. You're feeling all these things. There are no, like, what am I supposed to come and tell you? And sometimes it's this God you're blaming that you're told to pray to, right? Because I remember there's a friend of mine who lost the dad and the brother in quick succession. And I remember there's one time he was telling me, Olive, now, this God, he's taking the people I love. And then I'm seeing I have to go to birthdays of other people and they're saying how the Lord has kept them. This same God, why is his love for me killing my father, and his love for someone else giving their father more life? Like, I hope you get what I'm saying. Sometimes you don't know what to go and say to this God, but a lot of emphasis has been put on prayer, and prayer is just not it. And I remember there's a time even pastors tried to debunk the idea of praying to God, because a lot of times people would pray to God when they wanted things. So God was not their buddy who you talk to all the time. It's when shit has hit the fan, now I gotta go to God and pray, right? So yeah, just think about redefining who God is for you, and it will be way easier. I swear it will be way easier. Okay, let's talk church. Actually, this DM starts like that. It says, okay, so let's talk church. My mom was a lay reader, and I grew up knowing that you either choose heaven or hell. I don't know what a lay reader is. I guess people who go to that church would know. There's no gray area. You either choose heaven or hell. So I chose heaven. By high school, I was a praise and worship leader, sang in the choir, and got saved. Fast forward to adulthood, I started questioning this God. I have lost a lot of relatives, and I keep asking myself where this God expects me to continue getting the strength to cope with each death. Then came the storm that is my marriage, and I feel like either I am God's least favorite child, or he just destined me to suffer. As we speak, I am constantly struggling with church. This year, I've only gone once, and I'm actually thinking of stopping altogether, because I don't believe in the very beautiful promise in the good book anymore. The only motivation I have for going to church is that it is a platform for me to sing, and I love singing so much. Take that away and I have nothing to do in church. Heck, I'm always on Facebook when the preaching is going on. Let me tell you, no one has ever penned down my life like this. It is so damn accurate. And what I will give the church its flowers where it deserves. As she said, the church is giving her a platform for singing. I personally would not have the platform to practice my oratory skills and my music if I didn't have the church. So it gave me the platform. I will give the church its flowers where it's deserved. But the other thing was, now all these other things you have to deal with, right? And you're completely struggling. For them, imagine you're having to deal with death, and then you're having to deal with toxic marriage. And then you've been promised this good life that's going to come, and you don't know when. And if this good life is supposed to come when you're in heaven, and God is supposed to come back and take you to heaven so that you can enjoy the fruits of this. And why only me? Why only me why is it only me who has to go through all this hurt and suffering for that, when I can see other people worshiping the same you, and they're thriving and they're doing well. And this heaven, when is it? Because every single moment you're supposed to come. You're supposed to come at any moment. You were supposed to come when my ancestors were here 200 years ago. You're still coming. How long am I waiting until this heaven? I can completely understand. And something she said is she's thinking of just not going to church all the same. And what I'm thinking, if she's as talented as I know she is, and she's been pulling out of the church pole and they don't realize, that's something I noticed when I was in the leadership position in church. So you will be in this leadership position and there's some sense of importance and you are really known. Like me, I was known for my voice, my powerful voice. But the thing is, when you backtrack a little and you just start disappearing from the scene, no one actually cares to check up on where did Nani go, what happened. The circle of leadership just closes up and they go on with your life. And you can just literally leave the church. You just slither away. Like literally no one can, it doesn't matter how high of a position you held. And it is so weird. And she says she goes to church and just scrolls through Facebook. Let me tell you, those were all my processes. Me, I started going to church. It started slowly. It started with me not performing on the pulpit. I stopped going to the rehearsals. I wasn't singing anymore. And then I changed position, sitting in position in church from front to back. And then when I started sitting at the back, I stopped caring about what I will be doing, how I'll be going to church. I could go late. I didn't care about what I'm wearing anymore. I'll wear jeans and tees as usual. I'll not carry a Bible. I stopped carrying a Bible to church and I never downloaded it on my phone. To date, I have never downloaded a Bible app on my phone. And then when I got to church, I just sit and scroll through Facebook. And now in the beginning, you'd feel guilty. But when it got to a point when I just go to church whenever I feel like, dressed the way I feel like, sit at the back, and scroll through Facebook and feel no guilt, I knew it's done. I knew there's nothing here for me. I feel nothing. I feel I'm sand. I feel nothing. So I really do understand the position that you're in. Questioning God is very, very normal, and that is something you will also be guilt tripped for. A lot of people will just tell you cannot question God. He knows what he's doing in your life. And it's hard, guys. You can't have years of death in your family, years of an unsuccessful marriage, years of suffering and tribulation, and just believe that someday it's going to get better because you believe in this thing. It's hard. It's hard, and I really do understand. And you have that one string that you're still holding on to, because that's the one place where you can access this platform. And I do understand. If you still need to go there to practice, because church gives you, that platform is very, very important. Let me tell you, I could read books, I could write very well, but I didn't have a place where I could public speak, right? So the church gave me that. I could sing so well, but the church gave me the platform where I kept my voice in practice so that you don't lose your voice, you don't lose the techniques for singing. You also take up lead once in a while, so you're able to build confidence on stage. So the church basically offered that platform for me. But at the end of the day, it got to a point where that's all it was offering, just a platform. And sometimes you have to weigh, do I really want that platform that much and sit here and think about all these things that just make me very unhappy? Yeah, so I really, really do understand. Guys. Anyway, let's get to the responses that were sent in directly to the prompt. And I will remind you, I put out social media prompts so that you send in your responses for what we'll be discussing in the next week. So always look out on my social media at Olive Orao, and you will find a prompt. And that's how all these responses are coming in. So what I asked on social media was, what's your situationship with God or faith, and how did you get there? This was my bestie in Primo. We were such besties. We were worshiping God together. We were singing together. I'd really like to know what happened after that because we haven't caught up in a while. But she says, baby girl, I got stories. Former praise and worship lead over here. I guess she became a praise and worship leader as well. Where he nayo tupatane in person cause where I can't wait. I can't wait to just touch base with you so we can catch up on all these things because we were really good friends in primary school. Someone else says, Ata sijui kusema ukweli. You don't know where your faith is. You don't know how you got there. Completely understandable. I really, really get it. Someone else says, our relationship is great and how I got here. Like other relationships, both parties put in the work so that it can thrive. So step by step. Okay. I guess you're having a good relationship with your God. Another one says, I question a lot, and out of the blue in 2018, I decided to find out more about the God of my forefathers and mothers. Christianity just stopped making much sense to me. Ooh, you went into traditional African. Hey, okay. Another one says, 2020 happened and I just never went back. Can't find a good enough reason to. So a lot of people after 2020 just were like, hands off. You realized actually you do not need an intermediate between you and your God. Another person says, Lakini Sunday school was something demonic for me. Hey, do we want to start our Sunday school? I set aside an episode for Sunday school. Okay, so someone else says, a bit long distance, but I am trying to grow my faith. Life was terrible, so I know I need him. Hakuna otherwise. Oh, that is so beautiful. If you've always found your clarity and your strength in God, please pursue it. I know you've said right now it's long distance, but you're working towards it. You'll be fine. I'll remind you of the prompt I put out. What's your situationship with God or faith, and how did we get there? Someone says violence. I see. I'm not choosing violence, guys. I know it's a very controversial topic, but be confident in me at least. And then someone else says, it's complicated or what? Status complicated, full stop. I understand. Someone else says, I struggled with modern Christianity, a journey that landed me in Islam. I'm happy and comfy to say the least. Ooh, Christian to Islam. I'd have loved to have your story so that I would understand how that journey transitioned. That was beautiful. Anyway, I'm happy for you. Another one says, no matter what religion you are born into, you will have to choose it all over again or find your soul's home. This, I think, is the epitome of this episode. It's such a beautiful thing. It does not matter. It won't matter what religion you were born into. You could have been born into a cult, into Christianity, into Islam, into any. You, as an adult, even if you choose to continue with that path, it's a choice you make to continue with the religion that your parents brought you up with. So I loved this. I just saw it and I was like, this is so beautiful. Yes again. Someone else says, no church since moving to Lamu. I fear of attacks. I am concerned that I don't pray as much. That is very weird. I didn't know. I'll have to do my research on Lamu. Does it mean you'll risk potential attack if you are not Muslim? Because I know Lamu is majorly Muslim. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. If you are hearing this and you can send in a longer story just for us to understand, I would really appreciate. Yangu, it's coming in a voice note. I know who you are and I'm still waiting for your voice note. Someone else says, wachana na hiyo kwanza, your hair. Oh, thank you. Someone else says, I realized it was a scam. None of the stories in the Bible make sense, at least not to me. You and I both, baby boo. You and I both. Your laugh makes me want to laugh, in all honesty. I hear it's what is it called? It's contagious. Your laugh is contagious. Your laugh is that word. Anyway, catch it and spread it. Someone else says, not a believer because feminism doesn't go well with religion. Ooh, this is an entire episode. If you are into activism and you are subscribed to a certain religion, it will clash a lot. You'll be very, very conflicted a lot of the times. So I understand when she says feminism, because when I joined the humanist movement, where I found myself struggling with God, anyway, yes, I do understand activism. You might have to, it will possibly clash with your faith. As a Kenyan, another person says, as a Kenyan, pastor wangu alimaliza syllabus. As in, my pastor finished the syllabus. You and me both. So we left. We went to look for education somewhere else. Where mine and God is thriving, but kanisa tuliachia 3 years ago. Sema politics, kuitishwa pesa kila time. Oh my goodness. If there's something that really grinds my... it is the constant collecting of money in church. There's one my family moved to recently, and I was just like, I have been here only thrice, and thrice you have asked me to make 3 different collections that I do not understand what for. So me and my money in church, please, I'll go use it for whatever else. Someone else says the pastor's wife became ungovernable. Okay, this is, I hope you send me a full story because this is so weird. And someone else says the last answer I got says loss. Too much loss of loved ones. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I know death is usually it's so contentious. You just don't know what to do with it. You're just like, why me? And I get it. I really, really do. In my hearts of hearts, please understand that I really do understand you. Okay? So we'll get to the letters. Finally, let us get to the letters. I'll take a sip. Before we get to the letters, I'll just like to inform you that there is opportunity for collaboration on this podcast. You can choose to sponsor an episode if you want a mention on the podcast, if you want an ad to run on the podcast, and if you want product placement. You can have your products placed anywhere on my set, and that is if you'd like to advertise via YouTube. Otherwise, the others can be done on any of the platforms. Just to let you know, and let's get to our letters. The first letter I have here, I called this person Magneto. Again, having fun with names. So let's get right into our first letter. I will have to adjust this. Okay. Hey there. Let me just remain confidential for this story. It's necessary. So this person is very confidential to the point that they sent in their story using a pseudo account. That's how confidential this story is supposed to be. And what I did is I copied it somewhere else and deleted it just in case I get hacked, guys. Okay. So hey again, I stopped going to church because I never had a good relationship growing up with my dad. The guy is a police officer, so he very much did this police parenting thing. So adi relationship yake na my mom was also not good. At that time, I was in high school. Funny enough, I went to a national school. I'm a guy, by the way. Okay, so now we've established it's a guy. Okay, so I was at peace whenever I was at school and not home. I never looked forward to going home, by the way. Whenever I was at home, my dad would just take out his anger on us, me and my mom. So when I was going back to school, I felt at peace kabisa and then remembered what was happening at home, and it would just make me worried. It got to a point I'd do anything to keep the memories dead. So I found a broken dude. I don't know what you mean by that. My classmate. And at that young age, I was, I guess, 17 at the time, Form 3 as student. We made out. Embarrassing, right? And then you laugh. No, it's not embarrassing. But yeah, you're in school. You're not supposed to be doing lovey-dovey stuff. And it gave me a lot of satisfaction. Then one of my closest friends was the praise and worship leader. I joined his team na nikaanza kuimbisha in church. On Sundays, me and this guy continued for the rest of the year. Bado naendelea kuimbisha, then it ended. Tukiingia Form 4. After high school, before joining campus, POV, ama usiseme hii, so I shouldn't mention the church. Okay. I was elected parish leader for the events managing over 600 youths at the time. So I guess we're back to God. Then campus is where I drew the line and decided not to live in the lie. Ikafika point, I just had to get into a relationship. So kwenye nilikuwa nakaa, there was this guy, we made out, then the owner akajua. He was fired, and surprisingly, he was also like me. He has a wife and 2 kids. I have met them. He goes to church, but I refuse to. He has to go juu anaaminiwa na the congregation. I went to church recently juu I graduated. Huku ni Nairobi, by the way. Mi huishi Karen. I get almost, if not everything I want. But sijui, it's just a broken life. Ikona too many stories, but that's the shortest version I can tell. Hey! Yo magalage. Hey, okay, so there's a lot going on here. So you find out in high school that you are gay or queer or bisexual. Either way, you kissed a boy and you liked it, right? But then at the time, you also joined the praise and worship team. So you continued with your relationship with this guy while you were still leading the praise and worship team. So you felt guilty at the time because, of course, the church does not allow basically homosexuality. But then after church, then after high school, you're given the position of leadership to lead right about 600 youth, and you feel like you've gotten back to God. But then you join campus and you meet this guy and you make out with this guy. And that guy, and I don't know what you mean by the owner, but he finds out and this guy is fired. But I guess you continue seeing this guy. But the guy still goes to church because he is apparently a very trusted member of the congregation. And you don't. You just gave up on church completely. And this guy has a wife and 2 kids that you know of and you have met. And now you say that you live a good life. Like you're living a good life. You don't lack much. But it's a broken life. First of all, I'd say if you're really comfortable, you have the money, I would say, do you want to probably take up therapy just to deal with, go see a good therapist. Do your due diligence on therapists because that's a whole other episode. So yes, do your due diligence and try and seek therapy. And I'm asking you to seek therapy mostly because there's the idea of you growing up in an abusive home with your dad. So that is something you might want to address. And then there's also the issue of still not having healed completely from the church because the church seems to have done a number on you as well. But I would say, and also you admit to having a broken life. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're going through that you consider broken, but probably therapy might help with clearing things up. I'm just saying therapy just helps with a lot. Okay. I don't know. Being gay is not embarrassing. You say you made out with this guy. Embarrassing? No, it's not. I mean, you were just exploring what you were exploring. Anyone else could have been somewhere making out, even us. So, this is very, very, very controversial. I see why you needed a pseudo account, but also we know that the church treats homosexuals the worst way possible. But we know that quite a number of people in the church are actually queer. But the guilt, the shame, the harshness you'll be treated with if you ever just came out or if you ever lived your truth is so much that people just choose to live in the dark. And, man, though I understand. But I'd say just look into getting therapy. You've said you're comfortable, you don't lack much. I'm assuming you can get a few coins here and there. You just go and see a therapist, because I feel concerned because you say you're living a broken life. I don't know what that broken life is, but you might want to just seek clarity for that. I don't know where you are at with God, whichever path you choose. I hope it gives you peace. But I like that you say you left church because it just wasn't working for you. And how problematic church is that you can see that there's someone that you are engaging with who is queer, but they have chosen to live two lives. They'll go to church, they become the member who is trusted by the congregation. They will even go ahead and have a wife and kids, create an entire family, live an illusion, and then live your real life somewhere else. It's a lot for me. But basically, this goes to show you, and it emphasizes the point that a lot of people in church are living double lives. And it's something very common. Magneto, thank you so much for sending that in. It's given so much light, and I'm sure it's a story that someone else would like to relate to and would have wanted to also just know if there's someone else out there who's going through the murky waters as me. So thank you so much for sharing. The next one is from someone I named Benedicta. Because I was listening to Benedictus earlier in the morning, but yes. So Benedicta says, "Hey, Olive. Firstly, I would like to mention how I always enjoy your content. You have a calming yet sarcastic voice and are quite hilarious." I thought it was just coming. I didn't think it was sarcastic, y'all. Okay, so now it sounds sarcastic. I'm Zimbabwean, living in Dallas, Texas, so I miss some of what you say, but for the most part, you share in English, so I watch, and when I don't understand, just pretend. I try my best to cover everything in English, but as you know, if you're Zimbabwean, you're definitely African, and you know there are things that are said in particular communities or particular countries that cannot be translated to any other language. So if I say something and it's Kenyanese, like Kenyans say it that way, but I don't know how I would translate it into another language. But thank you so much for tuning in all the way from Dallas, but you are Zimbabwean. So let's get into your story. Back to your question. We'll try to be brief. Lol. It was not at all brief. Okay, so you say, I come from a cult background. My father's family worshipped a woman they believed to be Jesus. She was a faith healer, but people, they ended up worshipping her. Even after her death, her body was embalmed and we always visited it. The church was in a village the church was in a village kind of setup. Each family would have their own huts, etc., and we would go there for holidays or weekends. Some people even lived there. It was pure idol worship, and to this day, 80% of my father's family still worship there full time. We also only wore white. Okay, that's cultic. On my mother's side, my grandparents were witch doctors. They were top within many communities in their area, and till this day, neighbors refer to my cousins and I as witches' grandchildren. No, this has reminded me of the quote where we say we are children of the witches you did not kill, or something. Yeah. Before I realized the battle I was about to face, my life was very well, like very rich families, fancy cars, etc. We had the life. But I met a lady when I was 12 who told me about Jesus. I am 41 and can relate to you in detail that experience. That to this day, I get chills. I repented and received Jesus Christ into my life. My sister, little did I know the war I began. I never share this story because I feel if family members are still in it and don't see a problem. Because, okay. Yeah, I feel if family members are still in it and don't see a problem, I do not want to cause strife. I don't know, but I began to have visitations from all kinds of forces. But one thing I can tell you is God has always fought my battles. I never knew my grandparents were into witchcraft. People said it, but we never saw any sign. Grandma always offered African medicines, which are herbs, right? But she always had a spooky way of giving, looking back and always in secret. Okay. So she'd look back and always give you the medicine in secret, right? Never in from of any other family member. Okay, I don't understand that part, but anyway. One night, age 21, I had a dream that caused a serious fight in our family, as I was shown how my grandmother exchanged that is my cousin and siblings, destinies for wealth. But the way to appease this altar was not to depart from offering sacrifice or to worship another god, which I and a few others have done. I can spend hours typing the numerous suspicious, jaw-dropping experiences we have experienced, but God forever fights for us. So because I prefer to serve God and need Him more now, especially. Okay, I'll start that again. So because I prefer to serve God and need Him more now, especially because I turned away from the family altars, I can never relax in my Christian walk. I go to a regular church. They would faint if they read this. But dark forces are another reason I run to Jesus. What pastor's wife says about me, how the pastor didn't call me, is a trivial matter. I am gifted in the area of dreams and have revealed many secrets, like what practices were performed kind of stuff, especially before I matured. Now I just pray about it. Hell is real and it is for eternity. I know the other side, so I would never trade Jesus for any kind of life that is contrary. So this is my situationship. Thanks for reading. Enjoy your day. This is the first time I am coming into contact or like direct response about a cult. I've heard of cults. I've like watched them on YouTube and all that, these weird documentaries. I have never had someone share their cult experience directly. And so it's very, yeah, I was shaken for a little bit there. And I was just like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think. It's a lot. Oh my goodness. Benedicta, I don't know. This one just caught me off guard. But I like that you have chosen your path. You have decided to settle in Christianity and you have found home within Jesus. And that is beautiful for you. And I can imagine cults are not easy to leave, especially if you were born into it. You don't know any other truth other than this which your parents introduced to you. And for you to just chatter out your own way and find your own path, and that has given you clarity all this while. I think it is beautiful. And why I liked getting this letter was because then it gives everyone else some familiarity with an experience they're going through. Because a lot of times I have found that a lot of people are ashamed if they came from cultic families or cultic practices, or even if your parents or your family has like some traditional healing sort of gift or something. People usually feel embarrassed because now we are in the new age of new faith, right? We are in this, the religions have evolved, and our religions exactly were not worldwide. They were not global. So yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying at this point, but I'm glad that you found your way. I'm glad that you had to find where you find peace. You said that you are gifted in the area of dreams. That is a whole new episode. So if there's someone else who feels like they are gifted, it's very normal. Apparently, people have different gifts. And I realized this just very recently, that there are people who, you see these things that we know as a personality, or these things that we think are talents, or they come to us easy. You'll realize that those are different gifts, because sometimes people tell you that I don't think I have a talent, but they are really, really good at like washing plates. Plates specifically, not even cups, like plates. Yeah, so just like look into it. You have something that you're very gifted in, and that is not very common. But yes, everyone has a gift, and thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Benedicta. I am really happy you're tuning in from being Zimbabwean, not understanding Kiswahili, and you're still subscribed even as far away as Dallas, Texas. So thank you so, so much. And I'll move to my third and last letter of today. I named her Magdalena. Magda. So Magdalena says, Hi, Olive. Hey, Olive. Let me start by saying I now identify as spiritual, not religious. Thank heavens, because I really wanted someone who has this spiritual, not religious thing to explain to me how it works. So here we go. I was brought up by religious parents who took me to church from age 0. So for the years I have lived, I have been going to church consistently. I know people say campus changes people, and I agree to some extent, either positively or negatively. So for me, when I joined Campo, the whole church thing kind of started fading, even though I had religious friends who would go to church often. Having lived in the system where all the decisions about my life have been decided for me by my parents, this was the first time I started thinking independently about my life and certain views. I heard about the lots of things, including the church. I met this chick in the first month of Campo, and she was super religious. We became friends, and she convinced me to come to her church several times, which I did, and it was all right. After knowing each other for a while, she one day just changed her whole attitude and behavior towards me. It's like a mask fell off. I was so shocked that she had changed that much, to an extent of body shaming me and verbal abuse, etc. Emotional damage at its best. All because of jealousy, and I had been such a cool friend. Hey, it's a long story. I even had to move out and cut her out completely. This left me with a lot of questions about these self-righteous people whose actions don't align with their religious or spiritual beliefs. Away from that, gradually, I started realizing that all these differences between religions and denominations was bringing major conflict between people I knew and family as well. With time, I started longing for a deeper connection with God, and I wasn't getting it even if I attended church. Some things in the Bible didn't really sit well with me. We say the world is ruled by evil people. How come they gave us the right Bible? We are controlled by the matrix. Everything we do, the money, education, the system is like a blueprint of some education. The system is like a blueprint of some elites. I think she meant for some elites. Okay. We can agree that a huge basis of religion is fear of hell. That's not a way to live. In my opinion, hell and heaven is a state of consciousness operating under different vibrations and frequencies. Everything is vibrational energy, including me and you. Najua wengi wanashangaa hizo ni nini. Those who just view the world from a zoomed-in lens can't understand these things. It's a lot one. I am lost. I'm lost. Let me find myself. We say the world is ruled by evil people. That's not a way to live. Everything is vibrational energy, including me and you. Najua wengi wanashangaa hizo ni nini. Those who just view the world from a zoomed-in lens can't understand these things, Aki. You need to zoom out and see things from a wider perspective. Anyways, tuendelee. The more I tried looking for answers, even about God, the more confused I got. My friends could tell me, God has told me this, God ananisho this and that. And I was like, mbona hanisho, and I'm still a believer. It's been a roller coaster, honestly trying to find answers, but most things about the universe are a mystery. The more I dug into trying to find my spiritual path rather than what I was following in the church, I started getting signs like synchronicities, waking up at 3 a.m., extreme loneliness and depression, vivid dreams, better intuition, reevaluating my beliefs, etc. It has been super strange, new, but I figured out those were signs of spiritual awakening, and other people have been having such signs as well. The spiritual awakening journey is not for the faint-hearted at all. Spirituality is definitely deeper than religion. I have gotten better understanding of God on my own rather than how others perceive him. I can't even exhaust this topic. Me drifting away from the church and following my spiritual journey has costed me relationships with even my parents. It's sad, but I can't keep perceiving God through the lens of other people. I have gotten a connection with a creator that I have never had all my life. It is what it is. I'm not saying watu wasiende church. I believe salvation is a very personal journey and God is not religious at all. There are more than 4,000 religions. Why would anyone assume theirs is the right one or better than the other? As long as one is connected with the creator, it doesn't matter how they choose to worship. The more spiritual one gets, you realize that all these different religions, most of them actually worship the same God. They just have different names and understanding of him. Anyway, that's my story. Not many can understand spirituality unless they go through it themselves. Just be decent human beings. Live by the spirit of Ubuntu. Lol. Keep doing your thing, love. Love hearts. Whew, that was a long one. Spirituality explained. Thank you. I used to wonder what is spirituality, what is being religious. I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. But now I understand that religion is a bit more systematic. The churches we're going to, the mosques we're going to, the doctrines we're taught, the books we use. But spirituality is a lot more redefinition of who this God is, who this higher power is, and finding out how you can have a very personal relationship with this person. So, Magdalena, I like how your path has been very, very clear. You look like you're So when you went into the mention of vibrations and energies, I have friends who are actually spiritual in that sense. And I really just never get what they're saying. So, and I do understand when you say that you cannot understand it unless it happens to you. And I guess that's where most of us are. It hasn't happened to us, so we just don't know what you are talking about. But I guess for you people who can see the world from a wider lens, then you're able to guide other people and just be better, right? And I love that you say we should live by the spirit of Ubuntu. And that's just as easy as be kind to the next person. Just make sure, like, humanity above all else, right? And with that said, I think then we'll go to my experience in faith and God and where I'm at. But, this has been, I think it has been the longest episode ever, if I'm not wrong. Hey. Hope I can finish in the next few so that we don't have such a long episode to do. But you can watch it in 2 parts. I don't like part 2s, so I won't split it for you. But you can watch it and then go and then come back and watch the second part. Okay? So, anyway, my experience with faith. So I was born into a Christian family with a very strict Christian mother. So you were supposed to go to church. There is no way you are living under that roof if you are not going to church. Even guests who came to that house on Sunday morning, you leave. If you do not have a church to go to, you will go to our church. Okay? So, when I was going to church as a child, a lot of things did not make sense to me. And I remember the one experience to date, I even picture where I was standing. I don't remember the teacher's face, but I remember asking, that teacher was saying that God looks like all of us. You see how God takes, we were being told we are wonderfully and fearfully made because we've been made in the likeness of God. And I remember asking her, so does it mean that when God meets me, then his face changes to mine? And then when God meets my father, his face changes to my father. Like can he shape shift? Or what are you trying to say, that that we are all looking like God? And then this teacher went ahead to tell me, well, at the time I didn't know, but right now I realize that our Sunday school teachers were also just young. Like once you've graduated from teenage to youth, or like they were young, they were 15, 20, they were not old, they didn't have answers either. But I remember she told me, so God's face is like a TV screen, and on that screen there's faces of everyone in the world. So right now, knowing how many billions of people are in the world, I'm just like, so God has a face with like how many billion mini screens? Anyway, yeah, so that didn't make sense to me, and that was just one of the things that did not make sense to me as a child. This was Sunday school, so I'm telling you, I'm around 7, 10, if at most. And these things that just didn't make sense to me. And then the other thing that happened, and this I started to feel a lot when I was a teenager, I just didn't fit in church. And it didn't help that I went to a church that was full of rich kids. That church was being attended by Moi, our former president, Moi. Do you remember Biwot? He used to attend that church. The family also used to go to that church. Let me tell you, that church was so full. That church was being run by Kalenjin Tolas. Let me tell you, rich kids, nonsense. They had flip phones before I could even think of ever having a SIM card. So first of all was having like just rich people, being around very rich people. And the second thing was just, I just never fit in. You try and join the choir, something is off. You try and join praise and worship, something is off. You try and sit with the youth, something is off. You try and sit in the clubs, something is just off. Like your spirit is not settled. Yet everyone else says this is where you should find, fortitude. This is where you should find peace. This is where you should find clarity. But it just never did it for me. I remember this idea, as I have mentioned before, the getting saved 700 times. Every time you just felt like, I'm not saved enough. I see saved people are acting like this and that. I haven't acted like that. Let me go and get saved again. This idea of God is talking to other people. Oh, God told me, God revealed to me. Me, God has never revealed anything to me. Me, I'm just here, I'm chilling. I'm just like, I never fit in. It was such a difficult place. Can we also acknowledge how church is for extroverts? Can we just please acknowledge that? There was so much people always conglomerating and going somewhere and going to do what and going together all the dead time. And there was the idea of you always had to accept people. You always had to like people. Having guests was such a noble idea. The church is for extroverts. Please, let's just agree. And I struggled so much to create even a connection with one person in church. I swear I've gone to church for 18 years plus. And if you tell me to point out one person from the church who I can call a friend, I don't have. The church was such a weird place for me. The idea of people falling down when they've gotten touched by the Spirit, it never happened to me. So I thought, is there something wrong with me? Are my demons too strong? I just never fit in church. And then the other thing I also mentioned, on the days I'd pray or on the days I felt very close to God, I would have to fight nightmares and experiences that I didn't even know what to do with. So every time I wasn't so close to God or every time I wasn't praying, I didn't get nightmares. I didn't have to deal with weird things in life. So after a while, I was just like, guys, I like peace. Yeah, well, not the Luo man peace, but this one for not fighting demons. So it was really tough for me. And then the other thing about church, I'm just talking about church on and on because I have so much to say. The other thing about church is I was miserable. I was never going to be too good. I was never going to be good enough for this God, because as someone has sent in a response earlier, they always felt like they are falling short of the glory all the time. So me, I used to think, okay, right now I've prayed, I'm good with God. Right now is 4:30. And then at 4:31, my mom comes and says, where's your sister? And I know my sister has gone to see the boyfriend, but I have to cover for her. So I say, my sister has gone to the shop to buy matchsticks, okay? So I have lied at 4:31, and at 4:30, I was good with God. And they say that God might come at any time, his trumpet might blow. So I'm thinking, I was supposed to go and repent at 4:32, but then God has come at 4:31 and 50 seconds, and now he'll find me before I have repented at 4:32. Now I'm going to hell. I was constantly on the wrong. It didn't matter whether I just prayed a minute ago, I will sin. The feeling of jealousy, the feeling of sadness, the feeling of and everything was guilt tripping when we were kids. In church, as with God, everything was guilt. Everything was guilt. A guest came, you didn't give them tea. Guilt. Everything was fucking guilt. Guys, no. And then I think this was now the last straw. I remember this is not the last straw, but this were the few hanging straws I was holding on to. Now, when I was older, this is me. I'm telling you my story from the time I was a child to now where I am. So when I was 20 something, that's when I started backtracking from the church and just looking at it from a wider lens. It is at this point that I started to understand who these people who represent God are. So these people, when they come to church, they give you this idea of them being so holy. You're just like, oh, these people are, in fact, you work and aspire to be like them, only to realize that outside the church, these people are the worst people to have ever existed. Hey! Me, people have done things to me. I was just like, and they did it to me with the confidence of, we'll go back to church and you tell your story and I tell my story and it's my word against you. And who has seen you in church? When was the last time anyone saw you in church? Let's see who they believe. Evil does not begin to describe the things I saw church people do. And I was just like, is this what God represents? And while I was going through that, so at the time, 20 headed to 25, I'm going through that entire, just having revelations of what is happening in the church, what the church itself looks like. And I remember this one time, there is this guy I met in a club, and he saw me immediately and came to me and he was like, Orao, please don't tell anyone you saw me here. Please don't tell anyone you saw me here. And I was just like, I don't know. First of all, I don't know this guy. I don't know him. Even if I was to go tell anyone I saw him, who did I say I saw? First of all, I don't know this guy. And then it's only later I realize that our name in the church, just because at some point I was a praise and worship leader, my sister was a youth leader, my mom was in all those whatevers. So people had thought of us as very pure and holy, like a perfect family. So then it occurred to me, the same way I had pressure about looking at other families and thinking they're so perfect, there are people who are also looking at us and thinking, oh my goodness, that family is so perfect. And this person meets me in a club and feels guilty and is begging me not to go and tell anyone in church that I saw them in the club. They haven't even registered that they also have the opportunity to go to church and say they actually saw an orao in church. At this point, this person is consumed with extreme guilt that they think they're on the wrong. Even if me and you, we are both here, we are both at the club. Even me, the orao who you think is so perfect, even me, I'm here. So why do you think I'd go and say, I saw Nani there, right? So church people started doing things, and at that point when I started processing all of that, and I can't process in my little brain with everything happening, I've also finished school, I'm looking for work, adulting is shit. At that time is when I think I fell into depression. I wasn't clinically diagnosed, so I don't know whether it was depression, but I remember just losing a lot of hope in life and just not caring and just losing everything. And that's how I got into nihilism. Nothing made sense to me. Nothing fucking made sense to me. I switched on the news. It was always someone getting, killed, someone getting tortured, there was always something weird happening on the news. I see people who are clean-hearted and they have good intentions and they just suffer constantly. And I see people who are horrible people and are just evil and they thrive and there's money and there's success for them, and nothing made sense at that point. And it's that point that I was just a nihilist for an entire couple of, I think, months or years. I was just like, nothing makes sense and your God don't make sense either. So when things started to work out for me, and things started to work out for me in the sense that I started getting jobs here and there, so money is coming in, the stability. I'm not worried about a roof over my head, clothes on my back. So at that point when stability started coming into my life, is when I realized, let me just take a minute and now analyze all the things I've seen, the things I learned about the church, the things saved people did to me, the things I suffered through and could not speak because it would be considered evil or it's not godlike. I just started looking through all those things. And then it's in this sense that I met the humanist community. So then when meeting the humanists, then I started seeing human rights, and I started meeting the LGBTQ activist community, and I started just all those things all together. And I realized the world is bigger. The world is way bigger. And for me, at that time, just opening up my mind and now meeting Buddhists, meeting Muslims meeting and learning, and all these people are meeting from different religions have also fallen out of their religion. So I'm just like, I guess it does rain everywhere. You have to choose your own path. And for me, that's just how I left the church. But I left the church gradually. As I had mentioned before, I just stopped performing on stage, and then I stopped sitting at the front, and then I stopped caring what I'm wearing, and then I stopped even caring what they're saying in church, and then I stopped coming in regularly. So you come in one time, you feel guilty, you go the next time, and then gradually until the time when you just literally sleep on a Sunday and feel nothing. It's a process, but you go through all of it. And right now, I'm so happy with the space that I'm in. I am a non-believer completely, but I am so happy with the space that I'm in because I do not feel guilty anymore. I feel everyone who has come in contact with me has felt warmth, has felt kindness, and that's all I care about. I just want to meet more people out there who will treat me with kindness, who will care for me genuinely from the bottom of their hearts. And it won't be out of because it's expected of them. It's just because we are human. I mean, duh. Everyone deserves just respect, just basic respect, just kindness. That's all. And for me, all these religions just ended up not making any sense. And people think, oh, when you leave religion, you go into something else like science. You go into something else like astrology. No, it just doesn't make sense. So you live every day as it comes. If you find out something, you find out something. If you don't find, we move. Because if there's two things nothing has ever answered, even science itself, is the beginning of the world and the end of the world, and what is life. If anyone can answer the meaning of life, and I'm sure none of these things can, so just live your life. Do not hate, whatever anyone chooses, let it float their boat. I, for a very long time, was bitter about the church. I was bitter about Christians. But then I realized even some people need it for it to float their boat. Some people need the idea of Jesus coming to save me for them to continue in life. And if that's what if that's what keeps you waking up in the morning, then take it. It's fine. That's yours. Use it. Do not use it against other people. The church, religions generally are systematic. As someone mentioned in their responses, it is very capitalist. And that is something I learned about even my church, because my church is one of those old churches. And once I started analyzing the church, I was just like, wait a minute. It's run like an entire company. They have balancing books. They have salaried people. They have transfers. They have levels. You actually get promoted from this level to that level. The church is literally a capitalist system. So you need to operate outside of the church. Think of things that work for you and just spread kindness. Whatever anyone chooses. If I meet you today and you and I don't have religion in common, that's the only topic we can talk about. Then there's no need for me and you to talk about anything. It's okay. I can move on, right? So this idea of also just feeling like you need to talk to everyone about whatever it is that keeps your boat floating, or whatever it is your religion is, or whatever it is your faith is not right. I mean, it's okay for me and you to not have a conversation if that's the only thing that we can talk about, right? So if I am Muslim, you are Christian, we meet. If you feel there's nothing else to talk about, we don't need to talk. It's okay. We can go our separate ways. There's food. There's movies. There's music. There's pop culture. There's TikTok. There's so much, and there's everything else to talk about. And if you feel like if you sit down, you must tell people about this, your faith, then something is wrong with you. And it would explain why probably a lot of people don't like you. But anyway, yeah, that is my experience. This has been the longest episode, but I feel like it has been worth it. And I hope you found it as worth it. My mouth is really, really dry, but I want to come to the end of this episode and still tell you that there is opportunity for partnership on this podcast. You can have product placement anywhere. Today I have Balozi, Bavaria, a book. I know a lot of Kenyan writers. If you want to promote anything, please, we can have a product placement. Also, I am open to, if you'd like to sponsor an episode or a couple of episodes, if you'd like an ad to run on this podcast, and also if you'd like a mention on this podcast, I will send you the entire performance, all the numbers, and we can agree on what works for our partnership. But with that said, we've come to the end of our situationship with God and faith and what got us here. And until next week, bye.